Hey everybody, welcome to our first video about CSS. To this point we've done a decent amount of HTML, and now it's time to start talking about how we make that HTML look a little bit better. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and just make this presentation a little bit bigger for you so it's easier to see. What is CSS? CSS is cascading style sheets. The original cascading means it goes to every site, every page in your website. And there's multiple different ways to do this. We're going to do it the basic way first. But what you can do is you can apply a specific style to all the pages in your website. We'll show you how to do that down the road. So that's what the cascading part of that is. So obviously basic HTML really doesn't look like much. And what I want you to do is I want you to look at the basic version of our Gmail. I'm just going to drag it over here from my other screen. And this is the basic HTML version of Gmail. Now, if you use Gmail a whole lot, you know that this is definitely not the way it looks. This is really the old school way to go about it. And this is a good example of why CSS is important. Now, this site still has some CSS to it, but it looks nothing like the regular view that you would see in regular Gmail. And I don't know what kind of messages are going to come up here, but anyway, the regular version definitely is a lot nicer to look at. So anyways, that's the reason behind CSS. So if you ever wonder why do we do CSS, think about that basic HTML version and think about all the apps that you use on your phone, all the websites that you go to. They don't look that basic. That's why we use our CSS. So now a couple of things. I'm going to demonstrate this more than talk about this because I think it's just easier to do. There's some differences. You don't really use tags. In HTML, you use all the tags. You use the carets or the angle brackets. CSS uses, instead of angle brackets, it uses curly brackets. So the curly brackets are the keys next to P. So you held down Shift and the keys next to P, and you get these curly brackets right here are used for the CSS. Now, CSS, as it goes, you have to really write methodically, and I'll show you kind of the way that you go through that. Anyways, that's our list stuff from before. Let's go ahead and get ourselves into our notepad here. And the document I have open is one that you should have already completed, which is the basic tags practice. For this one, we're not going to start from scratch. I want to talk just about the CSS, not the HTML. So what you'll do is go ahead and do a new file and take your basic tag practice, Control A to select all of it, Control C to copy it, and then paste it in. Make sure that your language is indeed set to HTML. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to save this inside your folder. I'm going to save mine as CSS number 1. And that's going to be our intro. You can save it as something similar to that. Now, although this is CSS, you still save it as an HTML file because we're going to be doing the CSS up at the top where we put our comment that says CSS will go under here. So we're going to start up there. And CSS starts with our style. So remember the CSS. And go ahead and do that with the enter so you have a little bit of space because all your tags really have to go between, or not your tags, but all your CSS has to go between these style tags. So give yourself a little bit of room. So the tag is style because we are adding style. We want to go beyond the general basic stuff and make this nicer to look at. So when we want CSS, as opposed to writing a tag like we do for HTML, we pick one of the tags that we want to change. In this case, it's going to be body. So for body, we say we want to change this. So then we go ahead, we add our curlies like that, and then we indent. So if you notice, I have everything indents. It's all designed to make sure that you see it real clearly. And for body, there's one, just really one for right now that we're going to worry about, is background color. So what the background color will do is, as opposed to just white, well, we'll start with white, and it won't change anything. So save your file, go ahead, preview it in your default viewer. And what you'll get is your basic tag document. It won't look any different than it did before. Sorry, I'm dragging it over. Now, if we go ahead and change white to, let's say, yellow, what will happen then is, as opposed to having this nice white background to the page, the background of the page will change to yellow. There's lots of different color options that you can add, by the way, but we'll stick with some basics for now. So the other ones that we can add, we're just going to leave it just that one for right now. So we're going to go and we're going to change some different elements. So after this curly, put your cursor next to it and hit enter. We're going to change for H1. Now in here we should have a handful of different H1s. We've written that tag, and we're going to identify now that we want to change that. For H1, we're going to change two. First off, we're going to change the color. When you change the color, that's the text color, and we'll say that we want this one to be red. So when you go to your preview and you refresh, you'll notice that everything that is an H1 has now changed to a red text color. Additionally, you can go ahead and change a background color, and you can change the background. We'll go green for Christmas. As I'm making this video, it's definitely not anywhere close to Christmas, but ugly colors, what can you do? So the background color and then the text color are the two basic things that you can change. There are a couple more that we can talk about. We want to affect how large the text is. So if we change it to 48 pixels. Pixels is a web unit of measurement. Web units of measurement is an entire video all by itself, but we'll just use px for right now. If we change that to 48 pixels, what we have is we have something that is already a large heading, and we've made it even larger. So we've changed that size to make the text bigger. We can leave it there, it's all good. And then the other thing you can change is the text alignment. So if we want to center the text, we change that text align to center, so you can then make the text centered on the page. And for now, those are the kind of most basic CSS elements. The color, the background color, the font size, the text alignment. There's one more I think I would even consider, and that's padding. And for padding, what we're going to do is we're going to add a really large number. We're going to say 40 pixels, which is a large number for padding. And what I want you to watch is what that actually does, the effect that it has. So right now we have this green box for the background around this red text. When you do padding, what you're doing is you're expanding how much of the green box goes around the element. So when you put 40, you'll see there's a lot more green box around the text. And I think the padding is an important one. I add padding to everything because one of my big complaints about HTML is that everything is too close together. Now, is 40 pixels too much? Oh yeah, way too much. So something like 12, oh, what just happened? Sorry. Something like 12 is definitely more the way to go. So you add a little bit of extra space and watch the green box shrink now. Add a little bit of space so it's spaced out and not touching the outside, but it's not absurd. 40 was definitely too much. So those are the basic CSS elements. Those are ones that you're going to change as we do this almost every time. So then what you can do to finish this particular assignment out is you can take and you can copy H1 and change it for H2. So then you have this kind of template to use where we don't want red anymore. We want blue, and then maybe we want tan as the background color, and we'll say 36 will be our, whoopsies, what just happened? I had my number lock off. Apologies. 36 is definitely a better size. We'll say that our text alignment, as opposed to center, will be right, which I wouldn't normally do. And then we'll say maybe 8 for our padding. So when you change all of those things, you can kind of see what happens. Just like that, all of your H2 elements change. Now, there are ways to change individual ones that will come a little bit later. So to finish it out, what I want you to do is that you have H1 through 6 and paragraph. What I want you to do is I want you to change each one of those elements. So you can take the CSS that we've written and you can change the properties to make it do different things on the screen. For text line, you get center, left, and right. And then you just kind of mess with the different numbers in